Hey everybody, how you doing? I'm so sorry for the guys watching live right now and you were waiting like 30 minutes. I'm so sorry. Somehow I completely messed up my calendar and I was assuming I'd started this live stream at this time right now, but apparently I've completely messed up my schedule and scheduled it half an hour earlier from now on. I'm so sorry. I hope you got something to drink, you got yourself comfortable, or you left and did something entirely different and you're watching the recording right now. I don't know. But here we are. So I'm sorry. Yeah, sometimes I completely mess up and I was so busy. It's like, I don't know. If you are on vacation, like even if it's just for a week and you return from vacation, everything has stacked up, right? You just got more stuff to do than when you left, which actually means the vacation was either too short or too long, right? So I don't know. But anyways, here I am. Thank you so much for your patience. Yeah, Christoph, exactly. Yeah, QnA, quiet and asleep. Yeah, that probably is a good description of what I was doing right now. Yeah. Anyways, I completely messed up. But hey, it is what it is, right? If you are watching the recording, you can, you probably didn't notice it anyway, so that's fine. But still, I want to say hello to everybody waiting patiently in the chat for me to arrive. So how are you doing, guys? I hope you have had a nice day. And yeah, since our last live stream, I think it was like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Yeah, I just told you I went 1 week on vacation recently, and that completely changed everything. But no, I'm back. Good question from Stuart, by the way. That's probably, I don't know if that's the right way to jump straight into tech, but because he's asking about when the Docker traffic swarm video will be released. It's about to be released probably tomorrow. So it's already recorded. I just need to add a small change, re-upload, and I'm going to do that tomorrow. And then in the evening, it's going to go live and get published. So it is ready. And yeah, so I was working heavily on that video. It took me quite a long time to understand how to properly build a template for traffic in Docker Swarm, and that also has to be compatible with Docker Standalone. So yeah, that took quite a lot of work. Yeah, and yeah, don't worry, I go through the questions. You just need to be a little patient with me, especially today, because I might come live a bit late. But I go through all of your questions in the chat, or at least the ones that I think are worth discussing. And yeah, we have a lot of stuff to cover, or at least a lot of stuff that we can talk about, because I've recently been doing many changes on my Boilerplates repository. If you guys don't know this project yet, that's I would say, like, it's general library for our community templates, everything that we are using to deploy containers. And apparently it just got a major refresh or a major refactoring. Yeah, I created a completely different or completely brand new tool, a CLI tool that you can use to generate templates in a more streamlined and a more customizable and easier way. And that, of course, not only is a lot of work to develop the software, the code, actually, the program, but also to create the templates or to refactor the templates to work with this CLI tool, because there are a lot of different variables, a lot of different conditions and edge cases that I need to cover. And that's why it just takes such a long time to migrate these templates. But I'd like to take the chance here to talk a little about this and also give you some sneak peek into what is coming next for Boilerplates and what are my ideas, how is the migration going, and what are my plans to make this process even faster and easier for all of us. And apparently not just for me, but also then you get the newest and the latest and greatest templates sooner. But it's also helping me a lot to get up to speed and to move forward with this, because I've been doing a lot of work in the background and I haven't talked about it. Now, since I went live with this Boilerplates tool, I think there's even more pressure on me getting this up to speed, answering requests from the community, working on issues and stuff like that, and yeah, migrate all of the older legacy templates to the new format so that we can use it. And of course, I haven't really worked or made any progress on the documentation side, so the entire documentation is missing. That's something that I need to heavily work on. And so it's quite a busy week, and I also decided to pump out more videos on my channel to get more views, to get more content out for you guys. So I probably, maybe I overloaded myself a little, yeah. So, and I just try to keep up with everything, and it's really hard. But anyways, I'm not complaining, because honestly, guys, what would be a better job than working on YouTube? Yeah. So, and developing a software project that you really, that's really your thing, your baby, right? So what could be better than that? So I'm not complaining about work that I have to do. But anyways, yeah, it just takes some time, and I can only spend so much of my energy that I have left. So sometimes you probably need to wait a little for some updates. But I think it's getting up to speed. A few things that I've been working on, and yeah, obviously, I thought we just gonna use these live streams here to talk a little about that. So you can also use the opportunity to ask me some questions about the Boilerplates tool, and if you have any suggestions or any ideas. In the live streams, it's the best chance for you to get them into the code as early as possible, because you have a direct connection to the developer. So that's probably better than raising a GitHub issue that you obviously can also do as well. But if you raise it in the live streams, I can take some notes, I can think about it, and we can even have an open discussion about some upcoming features. And yeah, because there are several ways of implementing stuff, and some of your ideas might be great, maybe others I have a different opinion on, so we can more open talk about these upcoming changes. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go through some of the questions in the chat. OMCodes 23 already said I should answer his question. I'm an Indian and student. I want to start my own HomeLabbing channel. Please give me an advice. Also, if I have it, nice channel, will collaborate in the future. Yeah, well, if you want to start your own HomeLab channel, I suppose it's about YouTube. Well, then there is not much I can advise other than just start. I mean, it's as easy as that, honestly, and even difficult sometimes. But the best way to learn something is to just jump in the cold water and get yourself dirty and just start working on it. Other than that, I've heard many people talking about this stuff. Yeah, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. I want to do this. I want to do this, that, and always my answer is the same. It's like, just start. I mean, what else can I say, right? I think there are many people talking and thinking about stuff that they want to do somewhere in the future, maybe in a month, maybe in 2 months, maybe in 2 years, maybe never. So yeah, just start, right? It's the best advice that I can give you. Don't think about it. Yeah, just do your first video, even if it's gonna suck. But that's not a bad thing, because your first YouTube video is probably not really reaching anybody anyway. So if it's a bad video, nobody cares. So you have nothing to lose, right? So that's the best advice that I can give you. All right. So let's move on. All right, so the traffic template Docker Swarm video we covered already. Diego Naya, thanks for your teachings. I appreciate a lot of your videos. Thank you so much. Thanks for being here. Thanks for appreciating the videos. That's great. I started using Portainer webhooks with N8N for automated updates. Have you been using N8N within your HomeLab at all? That's a very interesting question. I've got some new updates for you even in this live stream today that I want to talk about, especially about N8N, but also about HomeLab automation. There is a new video coming out that I have been working on, and I probably will record it. I don't know if I can do this tomorrow or on Friday, but it's almost like prepared. So it's researched, it's prepared, it's tested, and I can start talking about this. But I've recently been investing a lot of time into N8N, playing around with automations, but also getting the setup a bit more robust as integrating workers, integrating Redis database for scheduled queues, adding Prometheus metrics endpoint and a Grafana dashboard. So there are a lot of resources I could share about this project, and certainly the next one is some very specific automation examples that I want to show you, but I'm also updating or working on a boilerplates update for the N8N deployment, which will include 2 boilerplates, one for the server and one for the worker. Because N8N, what I did in the video was a very, very simple deployment. It was using an SQLite database. It was using just a single instance, so a single container. But N8N can do so much more, and you can even scale out N8N to get this up and running for Docker Swarm or even for Kubernetes, and add workers and runners. It's quite complicated, to be honest, but I think with a good boilerplate, I can make this process much easier for you. The main issue that I had with why I actually cared about workers and runners in the first place was about metrics, because I wanted to have a Grafana dashboard where I can troubleshoot when N8N queues or N8N execution flows are taking too long or having issues, yeah, so that I have some form of counter for how many workers or runners are producing like failed executions. And I thought it would be just nice to use Prometheus metrics for this, to monitor it. And that apparently brought me to put me into a rabbit hole, because the requirement for enabling this is enabling queue mode, which is dependent on a Redis database that you need to enable for N8N. And you also need to have a worker up and running and configure that worker. And then it got certainly or suddenly so much more complicated than it needed to be. But I thought it would be nice to add this into the boilerplate, because one of the things that I use for creating these boilerplates is AI, right? It's the only thing that makes me working on these projects anyway. Without AI, I would be completely lost. And one question that I asked AI about, is this template actually good? Does that provide enough customizability and stuff like that? And the answer was simply that it is better than the templates on the N8N website. So I thought, oh, yeah, nice. That sounds good. Yeah. So I probably should give it a go and publish it as a new boilerplate. So that's why I'm also currently working on. But I need to do some more testing and some more, some form of quality checks for the different customization variables in edge cases, because there are still some smaller problems or issues in the boilerplates when if you put very specific values in the variables, or you use it in a slightly weird way, then it can run into some smaller problems that I somehow need to address at some point. Yeah, but that's it about N8N. Long story short, so there is a lot of N8N content coming. I probably not promised this to push out in the next weeks. But at least in the coming weeks, there will be one video about my HomeLab automation templates and how I'm using N8N to automate any application deployments in my HomeLab, fully automated with AI agents, and with smart decision makings for auto merging and holding back some critical updates that might introduce breaking changes and stuff like that. So I've built some pipelines and some AI agents to analyze upcoming updates, right? Which is, by the way, also an automation that I'm currently using for the boilerplates, because it was so much work to keep all the versions and stuff like that up to date. And I think AI is the solution to automate this, or at least automate like 80% of that. Yeah, you still need to do manual review for some of these things, but many smaller patches or smaller updates you can completely automate. So that's what I've been working on. It's quite cool. So at least I'm a little proud of that pipeline, and I thought it would be nice to just make a video about it and then follow up with more automation ideas. So maybe you also have some ideas for automating HomeLabs or things. Yeah, that would be great. But yeah, you can just leave me a note in the chat. All right, so there is a question from someone. I'm new to HomeLabbing. I'm planning to do with Proxmox VMs and within the K3s for running application. Is it good ways to start? Well, I can say to this from my own experience. If you are completely new to HomeLabbing, Kubernetes and K3s is probably not the ideal way to start. I mean, it's like you certainly can do this, but it's like if you're like if if you're have your very first if you're learning to drive a car and you have your first lessons and you're driving straight to the German Autobahn, so that's probably not the best idea for the first lesson, right? So maybe like keep it a bit slower, yeah. Start learning, maybe not in the big cities and stuff like that. So Proxmox is certainly a good idea, but Kubernetes K3s, I think that would be step 3 or step 4. Yeah, take it this way. Yeah, run before walking is also. I thought about that as well. Yeah, it's a great analogy. Okay, so I think you're a really good player of the piano. Thanks that you think so, but honestly, I haven't shown my skills yet. I guess I probably will not, because I completely suck, and I never, I didn't find the time in the last year or so to play it, unfortunately. I know, I thought it would be a good idea to show this in the background, yeah? So to add some personality to the videos, yeah? And people are gonna ask questions about me playing piano, but honestly, I don't know if that was the right idea, because everybody's now asking me about, hey, can you play something? Or that I'm always about, not really, I'm sorry. So maybe that wasn't a good idea, but I don't know. Greetings from Belgium. I love your videos. Thank you so much. Greetings from Germany. Arrogances. Nice name, by the way. I'm not familiar with your boilerplates. Can you give me a quick overview of what it is? Yes, we can do that in a few minutes. AI can play it. Yeah, certainly, yeah. By the way, I also have a Suno subscription, so I probably can just create the music myself without having to play it. Yeah, but anyways, that's not a topic I want to get into, honestly. It's because then I could talk like 30 minutes about it. Yeah. But I'm using Suno to generate some songs, background music for videos and stuff like that. So that's apparently great. But yeah, I probably need to spend some time playing real instruments at some point again, yeah. Namt aus Baden-Württemberg. Greetings. Greetings back from NRW. Enjoyed the channel. Thanks for doing this. Thank you so much for watching it. Yeah, without you guys watching the videos, my channel would be, I don't know, I would be the only subscriber to my channel. So thank you guys for watching and enjoying the videos. Yeah. Hey, Christian, I first love all your videos. Thank you so much. Gotten more than one service stood up on my HomeLab with your help of a video. Oh, that's nice. Awesome. Yeah, that's great feedback. Thank you so much. And I'm glad that the videos help you. Do you have a video on best practices for managing your projects with GitLab? Videos showing creating a project, but how would you managing storing software and templates? I think I did one video about that. If you watch for my last GitLab videos, there is some good information about that in the video, because there I spent a lot of time talking about the boilerplates and setting up GitLab, I know, but there's also in the second half of the video, I'm also talking more about how I'm organizing projects, how I'm attaching projects to the group, and also certainly my HomeLab tours will help you. So my software stack, where I talk a little about GitLab and the stuff that I'm running, so that should help you. I don't know if I ever should do another video deep dive about my HomeLab setup and how I'm organizing things. It's like at some point it's getting redundant, right? If you're always talking about the same stuff. But apparently many people haven't seen that before, or at least not seen it in a comprehensive, detailed format. So I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking about this, but maybe that's probably something for next year when I need to create another HomeLab tour. So maybe at some point, I probably need to make 3 videos about my HomeLab tour. I need to make 1 video about the hardware, 1 about the software stack, and then a 3rd one about organizing, or maybe even networking might be a separate video. But then I'm every year creating like 3 videos for a HomeLab tour, and then it's a feeling like most of the stuff is feeling redundant. I don't know if that's the right approach. But maybe some form of like keeping some form of high-level overview, quick and short, so to get new people hooked into the HomeLab tour, and then only talk about major things that have been changed. I think that would be better, because if I'm gonna talk about every single aspect of my HomeLab in each HomeLab tour every year, it's feeling, first, for the people following this channel for a longer time, it's feeling redundant. And for new people, that might be a bit too much because there's so much going on. So, yeah, I need to find out. So next year, early of next year, there should be a new HomeLab tour ready. So maybe I'm talking there a bit about GitLab. Maybe. Because software and automation has become a large part of my HomeLab, apparently. So yeah, we just talked about N8N, CI/CD, AI. These are drastic changes. Let me read through some of the questions. Been trying to get GitLab up and running. I was wondering if you had any tips. Oh yeah, sure. Just check out my boilerplates and the last GitLab tutorial. That's gonna help you setting it up. How do you backup container configs from your HomeLab? It's all defined. So configurations, I'm always storing in Git. So with my self-hosted GitLab, that's my single source of truth for all the configuration and deployments. So I actually don't need to back this up, yeah, because even if my HomeLab instance gets destroyed, I still have a backup of this on my local device, and I can even restore it from that because I've cloned all of the Git repositories. So, in my opinion, Git is the best way to do this. Yeah, certainly not for data backups, but for config or deployment backups, yeah, GitLab or any Git platform is fantastic. You can even use cloud services like GitHub, or you can use a self-hosted Git. It doesn't really matter. Just that you use Git. That's by the way, a technology that you need to learn anyways. All right. Christian, I also want to say a massive thank you for all your content. Your attention to technical detail while delivering easy, understandable content is excellent. Thank you so much. So that's probably one of the biggest compliments I've got. Because, yeah, that's one of my main goals, is trying to make it technically detailed, or at least have some depth of technical level, but still make it somehow consumable for the normal tech engineers. I'm apparently not aiming to create this for the everyday self-hosting guy, right? Because I thought my content should go a little beyond that, right? Because I was, by the way, asking myself a lot when I was talking about Pi-hole recently, because Pi-hole is such an application. I see this in a similar way, like I see Nginx Proxy Manager. This is one of these applications, or maybe Jellyfin, or what is the other stuff? These self-hosted video player softwares. I'm not using any of these, to be honest, so I'm really not aware. But I see this in the same league of applications, right? It's for the everyday self-hosting guy that is not really interested in technology or in tech in general, just want to get their stuff hosted at home. Which is fine, right? I'm not saying anything against it. It's completely valid. But I think my channel, or the goal of my channel, should go a bit beyond that and really focused on the tech engineers or DevOps guys or whatever. Yeah, network people, whatever. Yeah, but really go a bit beyond this. Like, oh, with Pi-hole you can delete all ads and here set this up with like HTTP exposing and whatnot, right? That's not my goal, right? So that's long story short. But I thought about this a long time how should I make this video? Should I make it more complicated? Should I make it more easy for people to consume? But I thought, yeah, I don't know. Pi-hole might not be the best video idea for DevOps and tech engineers because you guys probably already know about this. But I just had to do it because it was missing in my library, right? So at some point I need to make this. But there was a thought process behind it. Have been following for a long time. Oh wait, there's one message that I missed. David, fantastic work, Christian, helping the HomeLab community with your channel. You have a great skill set in terms of scope of technical knowledge and conveying complex topics to the community. Thank you so much. Yeah, that's amazing. And Francesco, hey Christian, I've been following for a long time, and it's nice to be able to catch you live finally. Yeah, that's great. I'm so sorry. I'm not often live, but yeah. Again, I try to do this more regularly. Yeah. All right. So before I answer some of the other questions, guys, first of all, let me share some news with you because I want to show you something that I've been working on recently. And of course, we need to talk about the Boilerplates repository. So for anybody completely new, this is a project that I've been working on the last, I don't know when I've been started this. I mean, the boilerplates themselves are from the very early days, so like 2 or 3 years ago when I started it, and over time it just grew to a bigger repository. I mean, I even collected more than 7K stars, which is a lot on GitHub, I would say. But it just grew over time. Yeah, it didn't went overnight to that level. And I'm currently refactoring a lot of the repository to support my new CLI tool that I've created. So again, this let's read the description here. This tool gives you instant access to battle-tested templates for Docker, Terraform, Ansible, Kubernetes, and more. Obviously, this stuff is still missing, but I'm working on implementing this in the next release version. So currently, just to show you the milestones that I've been working on here, are some of the issues that I need to fix. And I'm trying to organize this in Git as much as I can, because Git is really great for managing this. Let's go to milestones. So here are some of the projects that I've been doing. The main or the next release that I'm working on right now is the CLI version 0.10. So this is the next, I would say, major, not major, but minor update that introduces a few more features. I want to go to a major release only with a version 1 because I think it's not ready yet to be major released. But at least for the bigger jumps or for the bigger features, I will do a minor release update. And for anything that needs a hotfix or a quick change, I will run a patch. So I've created a milestone for the next patch version, but I'm really saving this for just very critical stuff that I need to pump out because anything does not work as expected. But for the stuff that I'm working on right now, this version or the version 0.1.0 is the next one. And there I'm planning to add many of these features that are still missing, like adding Terraform template support, Kubernetes, Helm, Ansible, and Packer. So these 5 are, in my opinion, the most important key elements that are still missing in the boilerplates, which will obviously also require a complete migration of the legacy templates. However, this is going to take more time. I'm just preparing the CLI app to be ready for this, but starting to work on the templates requires more time. But next, I have some other issues that I need to fix, and also enhancements that I'm planning. Some of the yeah, some smaller issues that probably have workarounds currently, so they are not so important, but I just need to fix them at some point. And I've already completed a bunch of them. Yeah, like I think it's not really interesting to run through all of this together, because I don't know if you're interested in all of the details of this project, but you can better tell me in the chat if you're interested in, so we can spend more time on some specific parts. But yeah, I'm planning to add some quality of life features to this tool, and I'm also heavily working on the templates. But that will be the next release that's somewhere coming out. I don't know when I'm done with it. Yeah, so there's more work that I need to do. And obviously, I've also been working heavily on the template side. What I've done so far is a new template for Pi-hole. So when you, whoops. So these are currently all of the templates that I've released. So a new Pi-hole template that is aligned with the last video that I did, and I also released the traffic template. Again, the video is coming out tomorrow, but if you want to take a look at this, you can give it a go and see what's coming here. So as you can see, I've tried adding many files and many variables and pre-configurations for certain elements or certain parts of traffic. This probably has been one of the most complex templates to write, because there are many edge cases, many different conditions that I needed to program in and find logics for, especially when you deploy this in Docker Swarm. How do you work with different placement modes like replicated, global? How do you deal with shared storage and stuff like that? I'm gonna explain this all in the next video in more detail. But if you already know how to deploy traffic, you can just try it right now if you want. Just make a repo update, and then you're gonna get the latest version. And there's also what I also did, and that probably might be interesting for some of you, is that I added some pre-configured security settings here. For example, secure ciphers, which follow some best practices for configuring TLS settings, setting a TLS minimum version to get rid of the old legacy TLS protocols, automated redirection. I also added a security middleware that can add security headers automatically to your other deployments and stuff like that. So there is a lot of good stuff in here. And of course, I also made configurable if you want to enable or disable dashboard, access log, and Prometheus. By the way, Prometheus, I'm also working on another feature there, because I think Prometheus is, that's still missing its own category, so to speak. I think it would be nice to have a separate Prometheus or a separate metrics category in the boilerplate, so that you can enable metrics for each and every boilerplate by using the same standard variables, where you can configure your default values and stuff like that. And then you still have some pre-configured settings in the template that enable metrics. So I think you can really do some good stuff with that. But yeah, you probably can tell me if you have any questions or something like that. You just put them in the chat. Are we able to use our own templates with Boilerplates CLI tool? Yes, technically you are already. Technically, you can already do that right now. Did you verify that the TLS minimum version is actually working? Doesn't unless you define a max version. That's a good question. I think I tried that once, but I didn't verify it again for the boilerplates. So I was using this in one of my older deployments, and I just copied what I had in my documentation into the boilerplates. I didn't test it properly if that really works, but that's a good thing to keep in mind. I'll do that. Yeah, because if it behaves like you say, we might need to adjust it. But anyways, I mean, if there is a change to the boilerplates, it's super easy to update this if you just do a repo update, and that will pull down the latest changes from the GitHub repository that I'm maintaining. So what it basically does is it clones the repository, but not the full repository. It just clones the library into your local device, and then you can do a repo update. Technically, you can already now manage other repositories. So if you execute repo help, it should give you the commands for that. So you can even add a library to the configuration. You can also remove it or list the elements. So, sorry, repo list, of course. So here you can see that's the default repository. That's if you install it, it will add this as the default one. But you can add your own repo if you want with the repo add command. So with the help, it tells you all the parameters that you can enter. And what might be interesting, I haven't made this public yet because at this time, I don't want the community to create their own boilerplates too heavily. And the simple reason for this is that at this stage, this program is so new and I'm always rethinking stuff and I'm always changing stuff, yeah? Like the variable names, the default schema and stuff like that. So there will be so many changes to be made. And when you start creating your own boilerplates right now, you might run into this issue that I'm with newer versions changing so many things and it will break your existing templates. What I did is to prevent this from happening is I added a schema version to the template. So we can take a look at this if you want, right? If you're interested in the boilerplates repository. So here is my my repo. There are different schemas for the different modules. So here, for example, this is the old legacy one that some of the older templates were using, but I made some changes here in the version 1.1 and changing some of the default variables. And the problem I also have is like, I know how this works, but I didn't document it publicly. So if you want to create your own boilerplates, you probably will have a hard time understanding how to actually do this properly because I didn't make the documentation public. You can read a little about this, which is, by the way, one of the answers to one of the questions in the chat. If I vibe coded my CLI tool, yes, I vibe coded it heavily, so large parts of the code base are vibe coded. Yeah, I'm gonna be fully honest with you guys. And if you go to the agents.md file or the warp.md file, that is giving you a really good understanding of the code base and how things are actually working inside, because this is needed for AI to understand the code base and understand how this actually works. Otherwise, if you try to vibe code it or try to implement new features, it will be a complete disaster because AI does not understand how your program is structured. And if you need to tell it every single session the same things, it's just completely inefficient. So that's why I maintain this warp MD file to give the AI enough context about the architecture of this program, how the variables are structured, what is a schema, where the schemas are located, existing modules and library manager, how this stuff is working and so on. So this is, this is actually, the whole intelligence behind creating these updates. And then I can start working on new stuff. But yeah, so again, technically it is possible to add your own libraries right now, but I would not recommend you to do it because there are many changes. But just to give you a sneak peek, if you're interested in how such a template actually looks, I mean, you can just just clone the repository and take a look yourself. But here you can see I'm maintaining so many templates, but most of them are still in draft mode. So if there is a draft true, that means the template will not be visible in the UI or in the CLI tool unless I switch it from draft and set this to false. The problem for this is I need to manually verify that everything is working correctly, because if I let AI do it, the disaster is happening. So it is absolutely it's absolutely clear to me that I need to manually review this, right? So even if I'm vibe coding the CLI tool, but I'm still doing many manual tests and manual code quality checks and stuff like that to make sure that this works. Like, even if some of these files still have their own legacy format. I'm going to show you. Maybe I'm going to show you the traffic. Why not? Let me show you the traffic template. So here, for example, you can see the description, the tags, and the next steps that I've created. So what is actually happening here, I've defined in the schema something like a default template, so that with default variables that define the variables for the Docker Swarm section, for example, or for traffic TLS, for traffic, the ports and network and stuff like that. But the templates themselves can still make changes to these variable types if they need to, because some templates might not use all of these variables. Some might use specific ones. Some might make changes to it. For example, here in the traffic template, where is it? Here I needed ports for the dashboard, for HTTPS, and for HTTP. And I thought it is probably not a good idea to standardize these things, because every application has their own port definitions. So that means I have a general section called ports, but the templates can override these values, or they can set specific values. That means, for example, here, the variables in the general section will override the default value, but all the other definitions will remain the same. Like the type is string, the description is this, and that's not going to change. So I'm in the code, I'm merging the template specific variables with the default schema, and the template specific overrides have precedence. And then there are also some others that come into this place, like default variables that you can define, or if you, for example, generate a template, you can create like compose generate traffic, and then you can use a -- var to change traffic enabled true, for example, or something like this. Well, that probably doesn't make any sense, but maybe in the GitLab also, you enable traffic. In the next version of the boilerplates, I also added a var file. That is currently not possible, but that's coming, so that you can store your variable configurations for certain templates in YAML files, and then they can be ingested in this tool, and then it's automatically generating a new template from that. So that is how I'm doing this. We're still in alpha phase, so you can say it this way. How did you do the grid in CLI? Is there a special tool for this? Yes, it's using the rich library, which is a Python library to generate these type of elements. I probably need to look at the code, because last time when I vibe coded it, I changed a lot of things. Here, for example, I created a separate display library where I'm storing like these table functions and stuff like that. Don't ask me where in the code it is, but I can show you how that's working. Let's switch the branch to release version 1.01. So that's currently what is. So explain to me how the CLI tool is creating these table views and what libraries are responsible for it. Let's just do this. That's by default running Claude Sonnet 4.5, and that's reading my agents.md file, or the warp.md file, and that's then getting more context about the code. So CLI creates table views using the rich library, specifically its table class. Yeah, let me show you the key components. So then it's reading the files in the code. So here, for example, you can see that's the output. It's the architecture description, a key component. So I've written a class, or AI has written a class, apparently, that's called the display table. So this is the main class where everything is happening. I've created some functions, data table, that will create a generic table. Then what is that here? Render status table with success error icons. Yeah, okay, yeah, why not? Maybe there's also a lot of messed up or dead code in this, but that's generally how it works. So that's an example how that's happening. I'm also using the typer library for this for the CLI pattern. So this is really great because then you can easily create your own CLI tools in Python. Typer is really amazing for this. This way you can easily create these type of like these help elements and stuff like that. So all this stuff here, like version -- help, that's automatically generated by the typer library. You don't have to write this yourself. You just need to define your functions. Like here, for example, in the where is it? I need to find the base module base commands. So here you just define list templates. No, where is it? It's probably somewhere down here, right? Base module help us, or is it here? I don't know. I've changed it so many times that I don't know where it is. Ah, here it is. This is the main. Here, for example, is the definition for the command, where you just add your options like -- var -- raw and stuff like that. Here, for example, as simple options, and add a help parameter, and then the typer library is automatically building the CLI tool for you with the help definition. So you can just write your functions and it's creating this automatically. So it's super cool. Yeah, it really is amazing. And I'm using this a lot. All right. I'm sorry. I probably forgot to talk about some of the questions that you guys had. You are your own vibe code cleanup. I'm currently using Ophelia for MFA and all services. Is there a benefit switching to Authentic? Well, I can say this. I mean, Ophelia is nice and simple, but Authentic has so many more features. For example, Authentic has LDAP, Authentic has XAML, Authentic has OpenID Connect, it has a traffic integration. You can even use Terraform to configure Authentic with infrastructure as code. And I think that's a big plus. I don't know if Ophelia does that, but it is really, really nice. Do you self-host your coding LLM? No, I'm not. And the simple reason for this is I probably answered this a few times, but I can just tell you from my own experience. If you're using AI for coding, the local LLMs are just going to suck, and it's just the truth. Yeah, and I hate to say this because I'm such a big friend of self-hosting, and I love self-hosting, but for LLMs, it just is not practical. So that's just my humble experience, right? And I've tried and tested out a bunch of different tools and CLI programs and GitHub Copilot and stuff like that, VS Code extensions, but it just did not work properly. So that's why I'm using Warp. It's like you need to pay for this, obviously, but you got like all of the good models in the cloud. Like you got GPT-5 with low, medium, and high reasoning. You got Claude 4.5 Sonnet with and without thinking. You got Opus and you got Gemini. So these models, or these families of models, are, in my opinion, the only reasonable models for agentic AI coding. What I've found out is you can use local LLMs if you have something like a very simple chat task, like if you send a prompt and you get back a response, that's fine. But the problem is if you try to use agentic AI, so if you try to use agentic tasks or tools, then it just does not work, right? So these local LLMs, they don't send the right responses to the tools. The tools don't know how to process the responses from the models, and it's just a complete mess. So I just found out that it's a 50-50 chance. So in 50% of the cases, it might work, but in the other 50%, it's completely not working at all. And that is, in my opinion, just not practical for coding, right? So yeah, that's just my opinion. And even though I have a Mac Studio with an M4 Max chip and 64 gigabytes of memory, it's shared memory, so I can really run large LLMs on my local device, right? With a lot of context window and stuff like that. But still, the performance and the intelligence is so much worse than the cloud models. So there is actually no point in running this. Even if you just compare GPT-5 or Codex with something like GPT-OS, right? GPT-OS is just so much worse than GPT-5, even if it's the same name, but it's so limited. And I think that's also part of their marketing decision of OpenAI, is that they drastically limit the GPT-OSS model because they want people to try it out and find out, well, it just sucks, so I still need to pay OpenAI for it, yeah? So that's at least my assumption, if that's their selling model, right? They just give out the OS model that's crap because they want, they want to stay in the news, they want to make it, bring people on board, and then but at the end, they still need to pay for OpenAI, right? Otherwise, it's just not working at all. But yeah, long story short, so that's it about vibe coding. And that's actually, honestly, also the way how I work on some of these issues, right? So, for example, one task that I've been working on is here, for example, email validation regex is incorrect. Actually, we can solve this right now, right? Because I can just show to you how that's working. For example, let's just run a new task, and can you start working on issue 1481, for example, right? So that's a simple task I can just delegate to agentic AI. So first of all, Warp will figure out, so what the heck does issue 1481 mean? So it knows, because I've defined that in my rules, that this is GitHub, right? So it knows this repository is a GitHub repository, and I probably should check this, right? So here it automatically gathers all the information from the Git repository using GH in the CLI, and then it's reading the files where this code is actually working on. You can even there it even generates a new branch for it and starts working on this. So here on the right side, this is a new feature in Warp. That's pretty nice. You can directly see every change that the LLM does. So here, for example, it's finding the email regular expression here, and it sees there is an issue. Oh, okay, it already committed it. Actually, I don't need to do anything else, right? It's automatically fixing it, pushing it, and then the problem is solved, right? And I can probably merging it into a new branch, right? The thing is, of course, you need some manual testing for this, right? So last time I tried to do this, it just did not work for whatever reason, yeah? So what you still should always do is, if that's doing this way, it pushed it into a new pull request, but it didn't merge it into main, right? So you still should review it, you still should test it, but as this is ready, I'm not doing this right now, but tomorrow I will take some time and I test it with a few edge cases, right? You can even ask that right now. For example, Christoph is saying, like, validating email addresses using regular expression is not possible. Why are people trying this over and over again? Validating email addresses requires a parser. Let's put this to the AI model, because I'm curious about what it says about it, and continue in this discussion, right? So maybe you're right. You're absolutely right, yeah. That's also funny. should I update the implementation to use Python's email utils parse address to add proper email validation library using email validator? This would provide RFC compliant validation. Yeah, maybe that's a good idea. Can you update the GitHub issue with a comment or description and then start working on this? Thank you. So yeah, honestly, that's how I do like 90% of this. You still need to do some manual stuff. You still need to use your brain sometimes, like with this, for example, email validation, email parsing, regular expressions and stuff like that. But this is the way how you can do this. Yeah. All right. So let me go through some of the other questions as well. So by the way, here you can see it's adding a new a new library that we need to include in the Python project. Probably I also need to include this in requirements.txt and install it and test it. But here you can see then it's updating this. And I can test it tomorrow. All right. Would you recommend OpenTelemetry for an observability stack for the setup of independent tools? It was more intuitive, but there is no connection for metrics, traces, logs. I'm not sure about OpenTelemetry. I can tell you what I'm using, and I'm using Prometheus, Loki, and Grafana. So that's the stack that I'm using. I haven't tested any other, to be honest. So that's what works for me. All right. How do we use Python in monorepo? I can't select multiple interpreters at the same time. I can only see one linter. I have to change interpreter for each project. Honestly, I don't know. So the way how I do it, good question. Can you do that? I can just tell you that I'm using virtual environments for this. Yeah, so I can easily switch. I can easily switch interpreters. I can install versions in a project, but that's all I know, to be honest. Yeah. A summary. Okay, so here we go. I've updated the implementation with proper RFC compliant email validation, updated approach. One thing that is really important here to understand, and this is a really great example, right? And this is something that I've spent on many or something that I really spend on a lot of time is. And the quality of the AI responses is very much dependent on the actual prompt that you give this, right? The way how we asked the question completely changed the way how AI started to work on this, right? If you remember, our first task was just like the email validation regular expression is not working, right? So if you give it a prompt like this, it automatically assumes that regular expression is what you want to do, but it never questions if that's really the right implementation or the right way to do it. So you have to specifically change the way how you prompt this to get a better result. As if I would directly have asked, hey, is regular expression actually the right way to validate emails? It probably would have already known this, and it never would have implemented this in the first place. But because I asked about regular expression, that's why it tried to find a solution, even if it's not a practical or an RFC compliant version of validating it. So it is so much depending on the prompt. And I also explained this to somebody else today in a private call. Like, when you say to an LLM, you say something like a positive thing, right? So if I say, hey, is my program actually good enough? The result will be, it's a high chance that the result will be positive because you gave it a positive intention with your question, okay? So when you're saying, hey, is this good? It will probably say yes. If you say, is my program bad? It probably will not say it's bad, but it will tell you all the things that are wrong. So by just changing the way how you form your or give the right or wrong intention, that's ultimately changing the result drastically. So what I personally think is, and that's just my humble opinion. Yeah, I'm not a guru, an AI guru or something like this. I'm even not a professional programmer, so I probably can't tell it. But my personal assumption is this: I think in like a few years, senior engineers or tech engineers, there will be a skill that is super important, and that is how to write good prompts, like prompt engineering. This is probably one of the most interesting or the skills that help you to get ahead in a career, right? Because I think it is so much different when you're writing prompts in a meaningful and in a good way. Because what most of these junior guys or maybe script kiddies or assume is they can just use LLM and create a sophisticated application just with nothing, right? So with just a single prompt. And that's entirely wrong, right? So you need to really spend some time learning how to work with these tools and how to write prompts in a meaningful way. For example, I'm always like trying to do from time to time do some code quality stuff. Like I'm asking stuff like, hey, can you please check if there is any dead code, or please can you check the latest documentation if we implemented it the right way, and so. And I'm regularly doing this from time to time. Always when I'm making big changes in the code like this, I'm always doing this, because this is at some point your code base is becoming so large. You need to clean this up either manually or through smart prompting with LLMs. Yeah, you can do it both ways, but you have to do it, because if you just code more and more and more and you're producing more code, at some point it just is too much and it's not efficient anymore. That's, by the way, also a reason why I recently started using linting, and that's, by the way, coming from somebody here in the issues. I don't know who this was, but that actually brought me to let me check. I need to specifically search for rough. Where is it? Here. Or is it this? No. I need to find it. I'm sorry. But I remember somebody raised it somewhere. Or maybe it was me. No. I think there was something about linting. And it was not by me. Ah, here. No, that's too old. Where is it? I can't find it. Suggesting improvements to the Ansible test action. Maybe it's that. No. It was something else. But anyways, it doesn't really matter. But somebody said I should use rough instead of pylinting. And that completely opened my mind to add, oh man, I probably should spend more time on linting and formatting to have some proper code validation, and to just write clean code and just don't produce bullshit content, right? So that's really super important from time to time, adding these code quality checks and maybe really criticizing decisions that the AI made. I sometimes even ask questions like this: is what you just implemented, is this really the best way to do it? Just like we did with this email regular expression, yeah? And then it comes up with a more intelligent response. But you have to question it from time to time, yeah? Don't blindly copy anything that's coming from this. Always try to think about it, yeah? So that is super important. Thank you, by the way, Christoph. That was a really great example of how to be critical about AI responses. But yeah, it's really it's like a two-sided sword, always, right? It's on the one hand, it's super impressive and super cool and makes a lot of fun, but on the other hand, it's also dangerous. It produces a lot of issues. In one of my vibe coding videos, I even showed some other examples when I was saying like, hey, create some graphical UI for this and that, and it created it by using old deprecated libraries, libraries that had security vulnerabilities and blah, blah, blah. So you manually have to go through this. The funny thing is, if you then in the next step ask the AI to check if the libraries are actually up to date and if they are secure and if there are vulnerabilities, it always finds them, right? So it's kind of funny, like, in the first step, it produces some garbage content, and in the next step, if you ask it, hey, was that really good? It improves, yeah? But it's like you have to specifically ask for this. It's not doing this on its own. And that's probably the biggest misconception that people have about AI, is that they think this is an intelligent, living and breathing thing that does everything in a meaningful and reasonable way automatically. No, this is not the case. You have to specifically say that it should do that. Yeah, but that's it about prompting. I know I probably lost like many of you guys at this stage, but I think to me this is currently super interesting. So even though I'm not a professional software developer, and I never would claim that I am, but just imagine like writing a tool like this would be completely impossible like 4 years ago. Yeah, honestly, I would never be able to do this, or probably not in that time, right? I probably could do it, but then I would spend like 10 years on developing this. Yeah, and no, it's much faster and easier. All right. So yeah, but yeah, the long story short, that's these are some news about the boilerplates. As I can see, I'm really working hard to make this better and better, but yeah, thanks to AI system integrators can finally code. Yeah, probably that's the best summary. Yeah, I don't know if that's really a good way to say this. I mean, some developers might not agree to this, but yeah, I mean, apparently you can do this, right? I just want to say it this way. You should always aim for using this as a tool to learn and improve your own skills, and not just blindly follow every suggestion that this is doing, right? But yeah, what can I say about this? There will be like a million people that will not agree to this, and just a script kiddie AI generated software. So it's gonna happen, right? There's nothing you can do against it. Yeah, you have to live with it. That's it. All right, let me just go through some of the older questions here. I don't really know where I left off. I'm so sorry if I forgot some of your questions. You can just put them again in the chat. I'm sorry if I went over this, but probably when I'm going into this rabbit hole and talking about my project and about AI coding, I'm getting completely lost in this because it just makes so much fun. It's just incredible. Anyway, so yeah, still there's a lot of work to do. You can see even with AI, even if it's super easy to work with this, there are many issues that I have created here that I need to work on the next days, and then I still need to make videos. So the work is not ending. But I'm really thinking about at some point making this a bigger project and maybe even create something like a web interface for this. Because one problem that I have with the Boilerplates CLI tool, I don't know what you think about this, but if it's getting really a huge template, like for example, which one does it have? There are even some of the newer ones. For example, compose show traffic. Yeah. You can see this is such a big template with so many variables that it's getting more and more complex, right? So it's really hard to read all of this or to grasp all of the sections that you want to enable. And what is really annoying if you generate a template, you have to go through all of these questions here, at least in the interactive mode. And in my opinion, this is, yeah, sometimes when you need to go back, you forgot something, you need to cancel the entire process and go back again. So I'm thinking my vision is something different. I just want to show it right now. Maybe I should not do it, but I'm still so excited about it. Let's do it this way. Yeah, it's like a prototype that I'm currently working on. All right, so let me just do this. Where is it? I need to grab the URL here. Oh, damn. This is not working. Okay, can you quickly fix this? I think I probably just started working on something and I left off because I didn't have any time left. Maybe this is this stupid issue again. I completely hate this. For some reason, I'm always just falling in the same trap, right? But yeah, let's just do this right now. Maybe it's gonna get fixed here at some point. Oh yeah, there it is. Yeah. Okay. All right. So. Okay, so I'm vibe coding a prototype, so some form of web interface for this. Yeah. Oh, obviously this is complete bullshit. Yeah, it's not working. But I started to do some UI testing for this. It's not really to actually write a functional program at this stage, but to just get an idea of what a final product would look like, right? And I'm thinking about something like this. If you create a new boilerplate and you select it somewhere here from the library, obviously this web UI is not ideal anyways. But if you select something that you can see in the next step the variables, and I'm thinking that if you have something like an index at the left side, something like a sidebar where you can click on something and jump straight into these variables here. Also, yeah, probably you should be able to do this. Okay. If you enable certain sections, you see that immediately here that it's getting enabled and you can jump straight into this, but you can also go back and change certain things in here. Yeah. So that is my idea of what it will look like when I'm done with this. So, I mean, done with this. And when you switch things here, it's also changing like the other fields. Probably there are many bugs in here that I need to somehow fix, but I think if we have something like this, it could be absolutely amazing, yeah? But yeah, we will see. This is still just a very early prototype that I'm just creating to get a sense for what it can look like, what it can turn into. And yeah, I'm really excited about this, to be honest. Is that using mock data? No, not really. I mean, it's like it's reading these boilerplates from my local disk. So when I make changes in the it's actually configured here. Wait, I can show this to you. Where is it? Here. It's actually configured here in the library. So if I okay, this okay, that was probably messed up in the last code refactoring here. But anyways, it's still reading from my boilerplates repository, the libraries, and it still has the files in here. So when I change something in here, it's also changed in the prototype already. It's just not. It's actually just not working correctly. So it's generating the files, I guess, but I want to do more with it, right? So this is not the end where I see this, right? Because my vision is, at the end, this thing should be able to deploy something, right? And it should be able to redeploy something if something changes. So I think at some point we should be able to manage projects with it. We should be able to manage resources with it. That means Terraform and Kubernetes resources. So deployments, right? Deployments should be resources, and you should be able to have some form of infrastructure. Yeah, okay, all right. It's probably this is still containing a lot of issues. But again, it's just a prototype, right? But if you add your repositories, your servers, your devices, and stuff like that, I think this tool is becoming really, really great. Yeah, something like this, right? If the boilerplates version updates, right? Why not redeploy this automatically? Or maybe you can add a rule where you say redeploy this on version change. Yeah, something like Argo CD. I was thinking about this when I took a look at their solutions, and what they're doing is actually pretty simple, right? It's not really so complicated to develop a tool like this. It's just, I think the main difficulty behind it is to come up with a good idea for the architecture. So to make a really good plan how things should work in the end. Like, what is a project? What should be included in a project and stuff like that. And I think the main difficulty that I currently have, or the main issue that I need to solve first, is how to actually preserve state of the applications, right? This is the main problem that I currently have right now. I'm thinking about this. How can I make sure that I have a consistent state of resources? And ideally, I want this to be the backend of the platform, and this CLI tool at the end should actually become one of the possible interfaces to this. But at the end, I think it should be a platform solution that is open source and self-hosted. So you can deploy this somewhere in your infrastructure. And then you can use the UI, or you can use the CLI to create your projects and to create your templates. And you can still do manual deployment if you want to. I would say, if you want to generate a new compose file or a new template from a boilerplate, you can actually do this and just at the end say generate, and then it will generate the file. So where you can download this and upload this to your server, or you can copy a file. Yeah, this is what it should still be able to do. But I think this is just step one. I think step 2, step 3 should be auto deploy and redeploy when things change. So I think that is what it ultimately should do. But that apparently requires more work. At this stage, I really just want to make this CLI tool a working solution. And we need to be not 100% clear, but I think we need to be 80-90% clear on this here, on the variables and the structure, so that this should not change drastically anymore in the future. Because I think that when that happens, and when I'm making major changes here, because I found out, it's not customizable enough, we need more variables because we need to cover edge case XYZ, and then we need to change this everywhere. And it's damaging templates. It's we need to be very, very clear on that, if that is what we want. So that's why I'm creating the tool first. And the UI comes later. The UI is then the next step. But we need to be very clear on that architecture, on that behavior, and really define that. And if everybody's happy, and many people use it, that would be ultimately the best outcome. Then I think I can do the next step. Or you're welcome to help with this project if you want. I have no problem with people raising issues or pull requests. I probably just have to review it. But so if you want to help with this, feel free to do so. Again, even the AI Markdown files are open, so you can connect your AI tools and even use AI tools for creating the requests if you want. But I think, to prevent any chaos, we need some form of manual reviewing process, or at least, be clear about what are the next steps that we want to do. Will the UI use the CI tool in the backend, or is this API exposing? The thing is, currently I'm thinking about that the platform itself. So I think the CLI tool should use the platform in the backend. I'm not saying that the platform itself should use the CLI tool. I think that's not a good way to do this. I think what the CLI tool can do is generate a template from here. But when it starts doing anything with projects, it needs a backend server. I think that's what it should be like. So that you still have the tool as it is today, as a simple Python tool, so to create templates and show variables and stuff like that. But it should have some command that says project, or I'm thinking about how Terraform is doing this, yeah, like init or something like this. And when you say init, you need to authenticate to your backend, and then the backend is handling the state of the application, of the resources. And then ideally, I want so that you can initialize a project and then attach, like you can generate templates, or you can create resources from template and then add multiple resources to a single project. That's how it should be. At least in my head, in my vision. I don't know if that's the right way, but I think so. Regarding the overall project, are you looking at client web UI CLI talk some common schema to an API, which has a backend persistent later? Yes, absolutely. So the prototype, how I've created the prototype, this is using, is it using SQLite? But I'm using, I think I told it to use a wrapper, so you can probably at the end switch to Postgres if you want. But by default, it's using SQLite. And then the backend is using an API. And the web interface itself is authenticating to the API using JWT. That's how I've done it. I still need to do some security testing for JWT because I know it needs refresh tokens and stuff like that. That's I haven't looked at this stage, obviously. But I think this is definitely what it should become at some point. Might get complicated because some of the configuration settings might not make sense on the target where you want to deploy. Host network mode versus Docker with users configured. Yes, that is, yeah, that will, honestly, this is really challenging. I mean, I even don't know if the current schema is the right way to do it. I mean, I have hard-coded many things into the template. You could argue theoretically, if you go to this here, like, where is it? Yeah, that is not a good example. Let's boilerplates compose show Pi-hole. Pi-hole is a good example because here you can set a network mode. You can set to bridge, you can set to host, and you can set to Mac VLAN. Theoretically, you could argue that I somehow should give the users the ability to add more than one network, yeah? Because that's how Docker works, yeah? Technically, you can add as many networks as you want, right? And maybe at some day, a user requests that. So somebody comes to me and says, hey, why can't you just add 2 networks? You can only add 1 network. And yes, in theory, that's right, yeah? But I think at this point the problem is if I add each and every condition into this, it's getting complicated. So there's actually no point in actually using the boilerplates anymore because then you can write Docker yourself, right? If it's all that complicated, why the heck do we even have such a tool? So I think, and that is the most difficult part with this project, to find a really good balance between customizable, so supporting as many functions as we have to, but we still have to deny some requests from the users and say, no, we are not doing this because it's overcomplicating the templates. So that will be really difficult. And honestly, in my head, when I'm thinking about the bigger picture of this tool actually being used in a production, in a company, right, where some companies might want this feature, and I'm thinking about, yeah, it probably would make sense from a technical perspective, but then at the end, it's making the entire solution more complicated than it has to be for the rest of the user base. I think then it's becoming a big problem. So, and I know I'm crazy that I'm making these thoughts even at this stage, yeah, But I'm thinking to create a good solution, you have to think this through, yeah? You can't just vibe code something and then at the end somebody comes with a request that will completely question the entire architecture of this. That's a big mistake, I think. So that's why I'm trying to ask myself these questions at the very beginning, because they make, at the end, these things become more and more difficult to change. Right now, not so many people are using these tools, right? Nobody probably cares if I remove a variable in here, yeah? There probably will no one notice. But just imagine a few hundred people use this, and then I remove such a variable. That is probably breaking something, yeah? And that's going to be an issue. So that's why I'm thinking, well, we need to be very careful with this. I don't know if I even have gone too far with adding network modes for Mac VLANs and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe it's even too complicated at this stage right now. But yeah, that's really the most difficult part right now, is thinking about, should I add this option? Because when I add this option here, I have to add this option at all other places as well. And it's impacting all other templates and making other templates even more hard to maintain. So, yeah, I don't know. It's probably at this stage just a big experiment, yeah. And we have to find out. Nobody can tell me if that's a good way to do it or a bad way. I think we will find out in a few months when I made more YouTube videos and made more people aware of this tool. And I don't know, maybe at some point somebody will create a Reddit post about it, or I don't know, and then people will start using it. And then I'm getting in trouble because I need to fix bugs, and I need to get stuff right. What I've vibe coded in the beginning, I don't know, but that's really my fear, right? That I have, and who knows? But yeah, absolutely. That's the point here. Better to break it right now than breaking it somewhere later when it's overcomplicating things. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can really try hard to avoid it, but I think at some point it's impossible to prevent issues from happening, right? I mean, that's impossible. And it's impossible to test and everything, yeah? I try to do quality testing as much as I can, but just imagine I have like 30, 40, 50 different templates in here, and I'm adding a single new variable. I have to check each and every of these templates if they are still working. So I think this is, like Christoph, you told me in the beginning, this is like it's gonna be difficult. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. Actually, but I think it's still worth a try. I think this is still. I just wanted to start a project, and I searched so long for an idea to create something that is actually usable, or has at least some purpose. Yeah, and this is the only thing where I feel like, hey, I really found something good. I really found a good idea. But who knows? Yeah, probably time will tell if it's really a good idea or not. Who knows? Yeah. But I think even just if nobody expect my community right now is interested in this tool, it's still a win-win, because if it still helps you to deploy stuff from my videos, then that's already a good plus or something like a success, so to speak. Yeah, even if it's outside of my community, not actually used. But yeah, who knows? We will see. My plan is with Python CLI tools, deploying to user machines can be complicated, especially with differences. Yeah, I mean, that's honestly, I started this project by using Python just because it's the only programming language that I really know, and I'm nowhere near to be an expert in Python. But Python is actually the best that I can. So anything else is completely new to me. So if you ask me to create a web interface, or if you ask me to create a backend software with Go, I mean, the prototype is actually written in Go, yeah? But this is really just a test. It's like I've actually not really done this in a meaningful way. It's like with this tool, it's about like 80% vibe coding and 20% manual coding. With a prototype, it's 100% vibe coding because I don't know Go and I don't know all of the weird web interface frameworks like Tailwind and Svelte and React, and it's like, I'm just like, it blew my mind, right? But maybe at some day I become an expert. Who knows? Yeah, but I'm not right now. So it's, but I think Python is really, to come to your point, Python is not the best technology for this, probably. So for the CLI tool, I think, yes, Python is good enough. But when I'm creating a backend server, when I'm creating like a runner process, like I'm thinking about like, why reinvent the wheel? Yeah. I will probably at some point when I'm creating the UI, I'm creating some form of runner project that runs an agent that you just deploy on your server. And that's then executing the deployments coming from the backend server request and so on, right? So that's probably the end result that will happen at some point. And of course, I'm not writing this runner in Python. Yeah, I think that's just not the right way to do this. I think for the CLI tool, Python is great. But when I start creating a program that should actually run on an infrastructure, I think, I think a containerized application written in Go would be the best way to do it. At least in my humble opinion, who knows? Yeah. Maybe some other guys will recommend Rust or whatever. I don't know. But hey, I need to learn 2 new programming languages anyway. Like I need to learn TypeScript and I need to learn Go. Learning Rust as well is like, come on. Yeah, why? So probably Python is the best. Grüß zurück, Anko. Danke. Yeah, a lot of pain later. I love Python, but it has burnt me a lot on client-side tool deployments. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's like, but honestly, Python, I absolutely love Python. Python is amazing. You can do so many cool things in Python. And I really have come to a point where I actually understand what is happening here. Even if it's looking complicated, I can still read this and I actually somehow know what is happening here. That's not the case for Go or for TypeScript, at least yet. So that's why I've chosen Python as that for the first iteration of this project, yeah, for the first CLI tool. All right, guys, so that was a lot of fun. I need to close the live stream right now. No, please don't talk about Perl or other programming languages. It's a complete mess. But I think it was a lot of fun, yeah, to talk about this. And thank you guys so much for your input and for your feedback. That's really helping. And it's motivating me to continue working on this. It probably takes a lot of time, and don't expect the Boilerplates web interface tool to come out in the next months. But let's see where the CLI tool takes me, and then from time to time I can show you some new stuff if you're interested. Let's use the live streams as some form of staying up to date, and I give you some news about it, and you can ask me questions. And I think that's a good idea we should follow. All right, guys. So thank you so much for being here, and I will catch you in the next video or in the next live stream in 2 weeks. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.